Hey Ottawa, this is your Monday market snapshot for the Ottawa real estate market for Monday, November 25th, 2024. My name is Annalie Rice. I'm a realtor here in Ottawa, Ontario, and every week I bring you the details of what's going on in the Ottawa real estate market. Today's update is going to follow a few announcements, so I apologize, but please listen to them. It's going to be a shorter update, not going to include the different areas of the city, but everything else will be there. For my announcements that I have to make, first off, today is the day that our MLS system, that's the multiple listing service system, is swapping over to a new one. So for people working with a realtor, people working with me, it means that there's some changes of what you're going to get sent and such things like that. But what it means for me as a person who does these weekly updates is that I also have to redevelop my weekly updates once I get a little bit of a knowledge and pattern and background on the data that we're having. I'm not going to be able to pull the same data, therefore I can't compare week to week when we're changing systems. So for this, I'm going to have to take a bit of a pause on my weekly updates until I can gather enough data to be able to provide ideally the same data, but some things are going to change. And I'm going to need some time to figure that out. So I'm going to ask two things of you for anyone who watches my updates regularly or even just sometimes. First off, if you could please subscribe so that you'll get updated when I do post my next update. That will let you know when these weekly updates are going to continue. And the second thing is, if you have been a regular or somewhat regular watcher of this, can you please leave a comment in the YouTube comments or get in touch, leave a comment on my Facebook, whatever. Reach out, let me know what you like, what you maybe don't like as much, what you would like to see that maybe I don't include now. I'd really like to know how you want these updates to be presented, what information you want. And that way it'll help me develop something that's useful moving forward with the new data from our new MLS system. Okay, so that's it. Let's move on to what's happening in the Ottawa real estate market. Okay, so citywide stats, that's all I got today. We've got the active listings. Dropped by a little over 100. It was across property types, as you see there, and the sales were down just slightly, only down by 8, still sitting above 200 sales, which is amazing for the end of November. Slightly drop for detached sales, just slightly up for towns, and condos were flat. Those numbers don't match up, but I would guess that maybe semi-detached had fewer sales, and that would make it equal out. This table is typically at the end of the update after I've done the different regions of the city, but you can ignore all the part that's grayed out. Those are last week's numbers for the different regions of the city. But this is for the residential detached market. It shows you the active days, cumulative days on the market for the active properties, the sold cumulative days on market, as well as the conditional ones. This is the same thing for the townhomes. Again, so your sort of last snapshot of what the market looks like for the citywide townhome market. And finally, the condominiums. Now, I actually considered whether or not to even include these three tables because there's not much information on them right now, but it may be our last sort of snapshot as to the cumulative days on market, because that's one thing that's not going to be included with our new MLS system. We're not going to have that data at our fingertips, unfortunately. This is the visual breakdown of the inventory. We can see that the active inventory is dropping off quite consistently, and it is this week slightly lower than what we had the same week last year. I would equate that to a couple things. First off, our sales are much higher, so that's, getting rid of the inventory through sale, which is fantastic. But also we do have the swap over of the MLS system, and it's possible that there are some properties that may have been listed that are being held off until we got to this new system so that people can put them in the new program and the new data entry so that they didn't have to worry about a swap over. So that's possible that we could see a little bump of inventory in the next couple weeks as people get properties listed in the new MLS system. Okay, so for this week for new listings, we had 236 properties that were listed on our old MLS system, and 87 of those were relisted properties, while 149 were new to the market properties. The ratios were 37% relisted and 63% new to the market. you can see that the sales numbers, that's sitting at 203, is still higher than what the new listings are. And so there's a couple things I wanted to note on that. So one, we do have high sales right now compared to last year, and it's a good solid number of sales happening. So that sales inversion shows you that it's a pretty good and solid market. But there's also the factor that because of the MLS swap, I think that there is a proportion of properties that were not listed that probably would have listed in these last week or so, who have been sort of delayed because they want to list with the new MLS system. So if I were able to capture the same data in the next week or so, I think we'd see a bit of a bump up. Expect a few new listings, maybe a few more new listings next week, maybe the latter end of this week, as people are able to put them in the new system. So if you are shopping and looking for that new, different property that you've been waiting for, maybe it'll come on in the next little while because they've been delayed. Okay, so for sales this week, we had 203 properties that were reported sold on the MLS system this week. 18% of those were with no conditions, and 20% were sold at or above asking price. I do believe that the number of sales this week may, it's a bit wonky because I think, first off, people might have been pushing to try and get those sales wrapped up before the swap over, just because they don't want to have it sort of lost in the no man's land between the two different MLS systems. But there also may be people saying, oh, you know what, I don't think we'd get it in before there. So there might be some that get caught up after on the new system. So these numbers could actually be a little bit off, but I don't have any way of knowing for sure. Sales within the first 7 days was 15 properties, or 7% of the sales. 33% of those sold with no conditions, while 60% sold at or above asking price. And sales within the first 30 days on the market was 41% of the sales, or 84 properties. 15% of those sold with no conditions, and 36% sold at or above asking price. Looking at the properties that did sell at or above asking price, it was 40 homes that sold at or above asking price this past week. 25 of those sold at or up to 1% above asking price. That was 63% of those sales. 12 sold between 1 and 5% over asking, which was 30% of them. And 3 homes, or 8%, sold for more than 5% of the asking price. 2 of them were just over 5%, and then 1 was 13% over, or 67,100 over asking. It was a detached older bungalow with an in-law suite in Nepean, down on Baseline, and it sold as is. It needed some work. It was listed at $499,900, and it sold for $567,000, and it had 5 offers. And I know that just because I had some clients that were somewhat interested in it, but they didn't get a chance to put the offer in. So, but I was kept up to date by the listing agent to say that there were offers. So they had 5 offers, which is fantastic. I think they might have had more if they'd waited a little longer to. They didn't hold offers. That's one thing, but they might have had more offers if people had had a little bit more time to get in and see the property. Okay, so the final slide I wanted to share was just a snapshot of where we are for the monthly sales. Even though it was only 24 days in on the sales. So already 24 days in, late afternoon on the 24th, we were already well above the last couple years of sales. We had a strong month. I do expect that number to climb. I hope that I can capture this data with our new MLS system in the same way. I might have to adjust it a bit, but I just wanted to confirm what I thought was that we were having a good, solid November. And I think that the data already shows that. Okay, so that's the update for today. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning, I do need your input. I would love for some input and some confirmation of what you want to see in these updates going forward. I won't see you next week. I'll see you in a few weeks, or maybe near the end of December for a year-end look ahead for 2025. In the meantime, I hope you have a fantastic end of the 2024, and I will see you later.